and today we're talking to Kat about a recent trip she went on for grassroots analytics to Wisconsin. So, hi, Kat. Welcome to the pod. Thanks for coming.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yay. Okay, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Kat, any and all pronouns, and I am new to GA, still been here for a couple of months, but came over from Wisconsin where I worked with the Wisconsin Democratic Party. But before that, I grew up and got my start working in Idaho, so, came from some lovely scrappy campaigns there and everything. So, yeah, and I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, amazing. So, what's your role at GA?
Yeah, I'm one of our digital strategists here on the digital team. So a lot of that is just like working with our clients to help execute like parts of their digital program, or we do like a lot of our like texting list rentals with other types of folks too, which is really exciting. So a lot of things from like email to texting to ads, basically anything digital you can think of. So
Amazing. So, you are primarily raising money online. In a similar vein to what David, who we talked to last week, is doing as well on the team.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so can you tell us what an embed is?
Yeah. So never always have like a very clear definition, right? Because it's so like, I think it's so different, for everyone, like what an embed really is. But
Sure.
the way that I kind of perceive it is a way for, folks from our team to really meet with clients, like where they're at on the ground, where they're from a lot of the time, or, where their campaigns are really based out of, and really connect to like what their campaign is about. And especially like a chance to give GA folks, right, like a perspective on, what are they doing outside of what we might interact with in the day-to-day with them.
Right.
And also let them kind of see, more of like a close-up of what we do to support their campaign in the day-to-day as well.
Amazing. So it's kind of this like two-way street of really getting visibility into what's happening on these campaigns that we're trying to help. Okay, so tell us where you went.
Yeah, so we went to Eau Claire, Wisconsin,
Wow.
which love. Used to live in Wisconsin. I lived in the southeast parts, like Milwaukee.
Okay.
Lived in Madison for some point, but never lived like in Eau Claire. It was actually my first time to Eau Claire, even though I've been in
Wow.
Wisconsin for years. But yeah, and we were with the Rebecca Cooke campaign, and yeah, it was wonderful. Eau Claire is such like a beautiful town, and yeah, Rebecca is from there. So
Amazing. Okay, so where in Wisconsin is Eau Claire?
yeah, so it's about, I want to say, don't quote me on this,
Yeah,
but
no
it's like an
worries.
hour and a half northwest of Madison, like if you drive, and it's about like a little over an hour east of like Minneapolis, St. Paul. So
Oh, okay, gotcha.
yeah, so very much like east north, or not east, sorry, oh my gosh, west northwest Wisconsin.
Okay. And is it like pretty rural or is that a big city?
Good question. So it's definitely like very much like a town. Like I think it's 80,000 people
Oh, that's
about.
pretty decent, yeah.
But like a really large like farming community around
Okay.
there. It is a bit more isolated than like Madison or Milwaukee are.
Gotcha.
So definitely smaller, but it definitely has some other kind of like bedroom communities that it kind of acts as like a hub for. So, but it is a smaller town than I think like what most folks here would be used to.
Right. Amazing, yeah. Okay, and so Rebecca Cooke is running for Congress, is that right? Mm-hmm. Okay, and what's the district look like? Who is she?
Yeah, so to kind of first jump on to like what the district is like,
Yeah.
Rebecca Cooke is running in Congressional District 3 in Wisconsin.
Okay.
Have a lot of thoughts on Congressional District 3. It's one of the more funky but more like important districts in Wisconsin. It used to originally be held by a Democrat, Ron Kind, for some years.
Right, okay.
And then Derek Van Orden had taken the seat when Ron Kind decided to like step down and not run again in 2022.
Sure.
And so Derek Van Orden is the current Republican representative of Congressional District 3 in Wisconsin, and just like not a very great man, very like rude to Capitol Hill staff, has been like very like inappropriate with like constituents, like a whole host of things.
Right.
And so it is a district that like while it has had like great like Democrat representation, it is something that has been represented by like very not Wisconsin-esque Republican.
Sure.
So and it's also a district that's a bit gerrymandered.
Okay.
If you haven't, you should definitely see a map of CD3 in Wisconsin. It's just like kind of jingles and jangles all
Yeah,
throughout, and
yeah.
like connects weird parts. But it's got a lot of like really important towns that are kind of like these vibrant hubs for Western Wisconsin, like La Crosse, Eau Claire, many others, like parts of like the smaller communities that are out west of Madison and so on.
I imagine a lot of farms and agriculture land.
Yeah,
Okay,
for
gotcha.
sure. Like especially like along the Mississippi where the western part of the
Right.
district touches.
Dang. Okay, and so Rebecca Cooke, who is she?
Yeah, Rebecca is amazing. So she is a congressional candidate, and this isn't her first time running. So this is her third time running. So, she is like someone who like she has been very committed to the campaign and like been consistently doing this. I think we see like a lot of the time like congressional candidates might only try once or twice, but this is her third time, and I think that speaks a lot to just the kind of candidate she is. She's very much someone who she perseveres, she like does her best, and like she doesn't like take any sort of like loss as like a sign of failure. She takes it as an opportunity, right? But she is like born and raised in Eau Claire.
Okay.
People know her. In fact, I remember there was this one time on the Embed when Julius and I, from the campaigns team, but we were going to a coffee shop and we ran into this older gentleman.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, what are you all doing here from DC?
Yeah.
And we mentioned like, oh, we're here with the Rebecca Cooke campaign. And he was like, oh, I've known her since she was like a baby. It was so sweet.
That's so sweet.
She is truly like born and raised from Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Like people know her. And so she's just she's a really great like Democrat to be representing that seat. Like she knows it. She also grew up on a farm, so her parents still live and own the same like farm and farmhouse that she grew up on, which we had a chance to go see.
Amazing.
Yeah, so she's just like really proximal to like what like a lot of the day-to-day life is for a lot of people in that congressional district.
Amazing. It sounds like a perfect person to represent the district. Very cool. Okay, so walk us through like how you got here from our DC office to Eau Claire and how it went traveling to Wisconsin.
Yeah, it is one of those things where like the like beauty and marvelousness of air travel is like always so like interesting to me. Like you sit in this like we flew there, so we flew directly from DCA to Minneapolis. Okay. And then from Minneapolis we drove over into Eau Claire. There's kind of like a funky situation with traveling into Wisconsin where Wisconsin, a lot of folks might go into like Chicago or Minneapolis to get in.
Right. Okay.
Like I know when I used to live there, like commonly would fly in and out of Chicago to get up to Milwaukee because there's more like a regional airport. Right. And that's the same thing for Madison. So. Gotcha. But it is but it's an area that like you definitely want to like fly out of state and then drive on in too. So and that's what we did. But it was great, and I think because too like the plane ride was only 2.5 hours, it shows like a 2.5 hour flight is not that long. Right. And I think it's just like how close these races are to us, right? Like these places truly aren't that far away. So they're really like close to us in many ways.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point, that it's like it's really not that hard to get somewhere else and be able to further your impact, on the grassroots team. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what was the team on the ground working for Rebecca? Who were all those folks?
Yeah, so we met their team. So right now it is, of course, still like kind of like the primary season. Sure. It is like a smaller team, but we got to meet their campaign manager, Tim, and then their call time manager, Sam. Both just like super awesome people. Amazing. And they're just like such go-getters. So like they were like always talking about like we're this close to goal. Sam was really great in like getting us set up with doing some stuff there. So like we got to help out with things like making sure to process like their checks and their donations, doing some follow-up like donor call time, and just like we would keep them updated with how like our texting stuff was going for their campaign. Mm-hmm. But their team is like really awesome, just very like, communicative, very connected to what was going on, and just like not only were they eager to like teach us and show us what their campaign was like, but they're just also eager to like hear what we were doing and just learn from us a little bit, which was nice.
Oh, yeah. I love that. Such a two-way street. Okay, you all were in Wisconsin at the end of the quarter. Can you tell us a little bit about why that's important?
Yeah. So for a lot of folks, like I'm sure we get all like the texts and emails of like this end of quarter deadline is so important, we always like see and hear that, but they truly are for like a lot of campaigns. Right. So for those that don't know, the FEC deadline comes and approaches, and that is a time when like all of your money that you've raised as a candidate or like a campaign committee has to be reported, and then it becomes publicly available knowledge. Sure. And so a lot of those numbers of like what is raised when that becomes public knowledge is a number that will oftentimes be like reviewed, maybe even scrutinized, and used to kind of determine like, by lots of different groups out there and seen by, other things, whether it's like opponents or people from, your same like side of the aisle of like, hey, like, is this a campaign that's worth backing? Is this a campaign that has power behind it?
Right.
And that is something that can either like, scare your opponents, or it can, embolden your supporters, or, or it can do the exact opposite of those things.
Right.
So, they had like a really ambitious goal that we were working with them to meet, which was great. And we came really close, which was awesome.
Yay.
And so I think now like they have like, of course, that like backing and support that they're looking for, which is awesome. So,
right.
And that's always like a huge accomplishment when folks can get really close or at least hit those goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so with this end of quarter fundraising goal, what was your role in that fundraising plan?
Yeah, so I had two things that I was helping with, and I guess like a smaller third thing. So first big thing was texting, so doing a lot of the on the ground, like helping, get texts out for Rebecca's campaign. Yeah, so like, cool. And like a lot of that too was like not even just raising money, but helping them to get like new donors and things like that. So, which really came with, like things that we love to help campaigns with here at
absolutely.
Grassroots.
Bread and butter.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's stuff, I mean, I love to do it day in and day out. So it was a real treat to like get to do it, on the ground with this campaign and just be like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is how many texts we've sent out. This is how many new donors, we've gotten, set up for the campaign. So it was great. And a couple other things we got to do, and this is like stuff that was very different, I think, from my day-to-day on the digital side.
Sure.
I got to do some call time. So like, resoliciting some donors, it was really great. Like there was, I think like one day where from 3 or 4 calls, I helped to raise like, it was like $700, I think, from like resolicits. And it felt so good, you know? So like, we don't usually get to do that, So like most of the time, when we're raising money in digital, where, clicking some buttons and seeing the results come in, is what it can feel like.
Right.
But this was really different to just get to, like, have a conversation with folks and make those hard asks and really, convince them to chip in before the end of quarter deadline.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously y'all pitched in and helped the team almost reach the goal, but what was the hardest part of this Embed experience for you?
That is a good question. Like I always think like, in walking away from every experience, it's good to think like, what was the highlight? What is like a thing that like, oh, I wish I would have approached this differently.
Sure.
And this was definitely like an experience that like, I think it was hard to find like the hard part or the part that I wish I could change. But
okay,
I think if there was something I had to choose though, is like, like a downside is like just, I wish we had more time on this Embed. Like, this was something where we really just got like, to dip our toes, so to say, you dip your toe in the water or whatever to really get a sense of like, what is Rebecca's campaign doing the day to day and like, what does it look like for them on a typical deadline? And I think we got a really good idea of that and got to be a part of that even. But it would have been definitely cool to see more of it, I think.
Yeah.
So, and spend more time with them.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great answer. Like of all things that could have gone wrong in such a vital fundraising moment, being like, I just wanted more time. That's really sweet. Okay, so I know that like in the call time room, when the candidate has been in call time for many hours, getting a lot of no's and really just trying to hit that deadline and seeing the number kind of flatline, morale can take a hit. So what did the team, either the Grassroots or the Rebecca Cooke team, do to kind of keep morale moving in an upward direction?
That is a great question. I think a lot of that is also something where like, this is what makes like Rebecca just a really tremendous candidate. I don't know if I've already mentioned, but she is like so sweet, has the greatest energy. I mean, this is like her 3rd time running and she's not giving up.
Right.
And I think a lot of like what really helped manage that morale was that she is a candidate who like, she doesn't see no's as a failure. She sees them as like that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Like she knows what the day to day is in this district. So I think a lot of like, what for her, from my perspective, of course, like I'm not like in her head or anything like that, but, but like, it really seems like she's someone who she remembers like why she's doing this and why she's running, and was really just remembering what that commitment was about and seeing it as like, hey, like we might slow down, but that's why we keep trying.
Right.
Also too, like I saw them use like a lot of like, good tactics, like remembering to take a break when they need to, taking the time to like connect with the team, like reassess like where things could be done a little differently. And they had this cute little square back room in the corner where they did their call time. So it was just like a great place to make that, like that is the call time room.
Right.
And then outside of that, they like can focus on other things, which is like, I think like a really good tactic as well to like make sure your headspace is assigned like a room.
Yeah,
sort of
it's like physical separation of we're doing call time in here. It's on.
Exactly.
I like that. Okay, did you learn anything on this experience?
Yeah, I was I was talking to someone recently about kind of like, you know, my thoughts on like the embed, right?
Yeah.
And I was kind of just, and I guess maybe not like learn something new, but reminded of something very important.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, I think sometimes like in digital work, right, it's really easy to see like 10,000 texts sent out, right?
Right.
And it, you know, that is like a number, but those are very much like people behind that. Like
absolutely.
we just talked to 10,000 people.
Right.
But I think like these embeds, and this is why they're so important, is it helps us kind of remember like there is really a campaign out here, and like it's important to connect with that and like go touch grass a little bit, right? And, hey, like these are the communities that we're interacting with, that we're fundraising with. And especially too for the call time part, just like hearing human voices behind like, you know, these are very real people with their own struggles, their own like hopes about this candidate, like who are chipping in.
Yeah, exactly. So did you come away from this trip more inspired to do the work that you do here?
Yeah, it was, you know, it's kind of funny. You know, like I just moved here from Wisconsin like less than 3 months ago, and then I go back.
There you're back, yeah.
You know, but it was something that like, even though it was like, you know, this is like, you know, similar state I've been in, worked in the state, and, you know, in my past role at the Democratic Party of Wisconsin before this job,
right,
you know, I had a chance to work with like Rebecca indirectly. But like, cool. It was still, I still feel like I learned something, which is really, you know, I think like just a testament to like how important these embeds are. So like, you know, more campaigns should do them with us. We should, you know, do more embeds. Like, they're really great opportunities to really like connect with campaigns. Cause I do feel like now walking away, I have like a refreshed perspective on how can we do texting with Rebecca, or like, you know, campaigns that are similar to hers, right?
Right.
So even though I may not like take skills I learned about call time or being on the ground into my day-to-day job, like it gives me a fresh perspective to really, you know, kind of sit back and like reimagine it from a different angle.
Yeah, that's amazing. I agree that everyone at Grassroots should be going on these embeds. I think it's so vital to learn how people are using our products and really just like reinvigorate this theory of change that we have and be like, oh yeah, this is why we're doing what we're doing. Okay, do you think that, or do you, coming away from this experience, are there any kind of misconceptions about fundraising that either you had or someone else had that kind of like you started thinking about things in a new way?
That's a good question. I think probably, I think something that was like surprising and different to me, right, is like, and this came from like the call time that I got to do, is like a lot of the call time that we were resoliciting had like certain dollar amounts they'd given before. Right. And there were definitely like some folks who like, you know, they either gave, you know, a lot less than like the last amount they gave, or they gave more, you know, like a good mix, right? Like sometimes folks, you know, are able to give less than they usually do, or they give more than they usually do, or they'll give the same. Right. And I think for that, it was a good reminder of that, you know, like where folks are in terms of like, you know, fundraising and what they're able to give, and that relationship we have with them as fundraisers to donors who care about the things we're fundraising for, is like, you know, what might seem like a small donation to someone else could be a really significant one, you know, especially if they're giving less or they're giving more. And I think it's like important to remember that, like, you know, going back to what I said earlier about like, there's people behind these numbers, you know, like a lot of the times, like their lives change, like the dollar amounts that like matter to them, like will change too. So like $50 that they gave a year ago could feel just as impactful to them as maybe $5 now. Right. And I think that was like another good reminder. And I think that's something to remember in fundraising, is like data tells us, right? Like average donations, you know, these are always good, but there are times where like someone can't give the average of like $27. Like sometimes $3 is all they can give, and that's a huge deal for them. Yeah, absolutely. And I think like having those interactions on that call time of like, hey, I can't give, you know, let's say like $100 now, but I can give 50, or, you know, some other amount, right? Like, I think that was something that reminded me of that, of like, you know, people will consistently support a candidate, but that support just may look different. Right. That is such a great way to think about it. When I was doing call time on a campaign many years ago, it like almost feels like a loss when that person says exactly like, I can't give 100, but I can give 50. But you like, it's easy to not appreciate that support because you were looking for 100 and now you're getting 50. And it's really like, that is the worst mindset you can have, because that person still is bought into your campaign, and now they're financially bought into your campaign, and they still want to support you. But you're right, like maybe they can only support 50 right now, and that's so fine. It still means a lot to them, and it like should mean a lot to the team and the candidate. But it's easy to get lost in all the numbers. Yeah, for sure. And I think too, like a lot of like, there's a lot of candidates out there who like, they'll see like not really the amount of dollars given, but the number of donations is their more exciting number.
Yeah.
And I think Rebecca is like one of those candidates. She's just happy to see that like someone is like standing with her, like someone's like supporting her. Because I think she knows that like, you know, because she's not running a campaign that's like, you know, backed by like, you know, millions of dollars or anything, right? Like, you know,
it's people powered.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I think that's something for her where like, you know, she is like happy for someone to, you know, give whatever they can, whatever their means allow.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to a lot of the clients we work with at, you know, GA, of course. Like these are like, a lot of these are like people powered grassroots campaigns and organizations. And you know, sometimes even if it's just $1, like that's still a huge deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so on this podcast, we tend to talk about the company pillars that Grassroots has. So do you think your experience in Wisconsin with Rebecca exemplifies one of those pillars?
Yeah, I think the one for me is it's the climb is like the big one.
Okay.
Which I love that one, you know, not really like trying to shout out, you know, Miley Cyrus or anything, you know, every time I hear that, I always think of that lyric, but
that's where it's from.
Right. But I think of that like in terms of this embed because really like this was, you know, a campaign like, you know, they only had like the 2 full-time staff right now because it's primary season.
Yeah, sure.
And so like, and they are still like energetic and happy to be there and like working hard. Right. And they were so happy to see us. And so was Rebecca. And it was like, you know, it's not like, you know, this like thing where you see campaigns on TV, right? It's like it's hard work. It's like it's a few people knocking out call time.
Yep.
And they're getting through every single call and every donation with like perseverance and like, you know, having pride in like what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that also speaks to like, you know, it's the climb being a reflection of like how Rebecca approaches, you know, the race. Like this is her 3rd time running. And she's been really committed to it from the start. So, and I think this was just a really good reminder of like, these campaigns are for the long haul. You know, it's not about like short-term wins sometimes. Sometimes it's about the long-term work of like, you know, having our values, make it out there and like to raise good money for good folks.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, Kat, thank you so much. Do you have anything else to add about your experience in Wisconsin?
No, just thank you so much for having me. And I was so happy I could share about our time in Eau Claire. It was great. And Rebecca is an awesome candidate. So.
Yeah. Check Rebecca out. If you're empowered to donate, you should. She has a long race ahead of her. As Kat said, it's just primary season. But yeah, thank you so much for joining. It was great to hear about your embed.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much.